Okay, so welcome to my first video. I'm hoping to do some videos on productivity and how to sort of get the most out of things and achieve your goals, particularly if you get distracted, if you struggle to focus, if you procrastinate, that sort of stuff. So in this video, I'm going to be looking at how to read some books that you've struggled reading. Maybe you've got some classic books you've always wanted to read. Maybe you feel you're not a reader, and you struggle with kind of these big classics like Crime and Punishment, like War and Peace, and you've wanted to read them but you just can't. And that's something that I've struggled with because I've always wanted to read these kind of books. And actually, there's kind of a process that I followed which has really helped me to read some of these classics, and I'm going to talk through them today, and kind of hopefully make it a little bit easier for you to sort of get into some of those more difficult books. So the first thing, before I sort of show you on my iPad what I do, the first thing to say is that one thing that I think is quite obvious is that reading a physical book is much harder than probably listening to an audio book. And so going for an audiobook it can be an easy way, but and I think that's quite an easy and obvious way to sort of consume sort of classic books. But I'm going to try and take it a step beyond that and think of some other ways to try and help that kind of combine using audio as well. But yeah, so the first thing I'm going to go through is just searching a classic book on Amazon. So let's go for Crime and Punishment as a classic. And so one of the things that I've sort of noticed is that there's actually lots of translations of the classics if they're written in other languages. Like a lot of them are a lot of the classics like Crime and Punishment and War and Peace are written in Russian. And so one of the things that I guess I wanted to work out is kind of what's the easiest translation, because some translations are harder and more inaccessible than others. So what I did is I used ChatGPT to sort of ask it. So as I said, what is the easiest to read, let me zoom in, translation of Crime and Punishment, and then just see what it comes up with. And so this one, I think, yeah. So it's giving you 3 different translations when they were done. And this one kind of says, I think the Macduff translation is the easiest, most readable. And so this is kind of the translation I went for the book that I was, the classic that I was reading, which is The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. I probably haven't pronounced his name properly, but yeah. So so going back to Amazon, so one of the things that I noticed is if you check in several of the classics, the Kindle books are quite a lot cheaper than the audio books. And so, say for example here, Crime and Punishment's 99p, right? But I guess you don't have the audio, but we'll come to that in a minute. So you can just purchase it on here. So I'm going to do that now. And purchase Crime. Oh, actually, no, I think this is on my other account, so it might not show up. But I've got some classics on there, so maybe we can go through that. So that's fine. And so what I'm going to explain now is a different app that I've got called Speechify. Speechify is a fantastic app. Let me just go back, which reads out PDFs, which is so helpful. And you've got to pay a subscription. You can get offers. I managed to get it for quite cheap, but it's a really helpful app that reads PDFs, and it also exports Kindle books. So there's an option where you can load your Kindle library and then open a book, and some of them you can download, but if they're too big, like the classics are too big, you can't. So you open the book and it's in this difficult format. So I've got dyslexia, so I find it helpful to go to the dyslexia font, which probably looks a bit ridiculous to most people, but I find it easier to read. And I make it as big. Oh, it's going. There we go. So I make it a lot bigger like that. And then I usually use the, which is the one that I use? Well, let's just pick a random one for the moment. Cliff. Which is the one that I usually, Michael, that's it.
Hey, hi, my name is Michael.
And,
Mysticism.
And with a lot of these apps, you know, it can be quite, you know, robotic, you know, the kind of, but this app, it uses AI to try to make it a little bit better than kind of the robotic voice you normally get. I think it's pretty decent, so let's just give it a trial.
Some of my readers may imagine that my young man was a sickly, ecstatic, poorly developed creature, a pale, consumptive dreamer. On the contrary, Alyosha was at this time a well-grown, red-cheeked, clear-eyed lad of 19, radiant with...
So it's pretty good, and then it's helpful because I can physically see the words as well as hear them while I'm doing the washing up and stuff like that. And you can have fun and play around with it and, like, for example, pick other sort of funny voices like, let's go with Snoop Dogg and see what he sounds like.
With health. He was very handsome, too, graceful, moderately tall, with hair of a dark brown, with a regular, rather long, oval-shaped face, and wide-set dark gray, shining eyes. He was very thoughtful.
And you can speed it up as well.
Very serene. I shall be told, perhaps, that red cheeks are not incompatible with fanaticism and mysticism, but I fancy that Alyosha was more of a realist than anyone. Oh, no doubt, in the monastery he fully believed in miracles.
Snoop Dogg. So yeah, so you can get all sorts of voices, and I found it so helpful in terms of being able to sort of take in kind of what was being read, being able to see it and hear it. But another thing that I found helpful on top of this is producing a kind of character list. So again, I use ChatGPT for this, and I just sort of wrote in, produce a character list for Brothers Karamazov novel, and then you can state the format. So you can say output in a table with the name, position, and description in each column, and then you just press enter, and then it produces this table. Now, for some reason in ChatGPT, the table goes a bit weird and big, and it's a bit annoying to sort of like read it because it's so big. So let me just press stop. And what I found is you can export it, but if you export it to Word or Excel, it doesn't seem to work. So you just hold it down and select copy. And I found that if you use the program Notion, it exports really well. So this is the program Notion. It's kind of like a database. If you don't know about it, it's a database kind of bit of software. It's an amazing bit of software that I'm probably going to do some more videos on. But for the purpose of this video, we just export it, and then this is it. So this is the table. And what I did is I actually printed it off. And so this is a printed version of the table, and I kind of ticked off kind of when I've come across a character. So that I found really helpful. But another thing I found helpful, in addition to the character list, is getting ChatGPT to produce a chapter summary. So, and I've got that in Notion as well. So this is the chapter summary. And this is just so helpful because it kind of goes through what each chapter is, and it gives you a sort of a frame of reference and helps you to sort of in your mind think, okay, well now rather than it just being, so like for example in the first chapter he's listing all of these different things, and then but here it says he's talking about the father ultimately and summarizing details about the father. So this is just really helpful in terms of remembering and understanding and following what's going on. So yeah, so those are my tips in terms of reading classic literature, and yeah, I hope you found it helpful. And the usual stuff, if you can like and subscribe if anyone's out there, and if you can comment any other sort of videos in terms of what you'd like to see tips on. But yeah, I found it interesting sort of doing this video, and hopefully I'll do many more. And yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.